Okay, welcome everyone to our session on CapaCITIES Day, which we are co-hosting with the Adaptation Research Alliance, and where we'll be talking about capacity through co-creation, comparing transformational processes of capacity development for urban resilience. I'm Grace O'Donovan from South North, which forms the Research for Impact Hub of the Climate Adaptation and Resilience, or CLARE program. As you'll be hearing more about shortly, CLARE is a UK-Canada framework research program aiming to enable socially inclusive and sustainable action to build resilience to climate change and natural hazards. And I'm delighted to say that the R4I Hub was formally launched just 2 days ago here at COP. So today we'll be hearing first from Dr. Manuela Di Moro on the CLARE program and its capacity strengthening work. Manuela is an expert advisor on climate, environment and infrastructure in the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, where she leads the research portfolio under CLARE, as well as the FCDO's relationship with the ARA. We will also have 3 lightning presentations from projects from both CLARE and ARA. The first will be from Dr. Richard Jones, who is a science fellow in the Met Office Hadley Centre, working on developing and applying regional climate information to inform adaptation and resilience with a focus on developing countries. Second, we will hear from Dr. Kate Strachan, who is the manager of climate resilience at ICLEI Africa, and who works with and for local governments to build climate resilience, develop climate adaptation plans, and undertake climate and disaster risk assessments, helping them strengthen local sustainability through influencing development policies and planning systems. Third, we will hear from Dr. Aditya Bahadur, who is the chair of the research strategy team and principal researcher at the International Institute for Environment and Development, as well as strategic advisor to the Adaptation Research Alliance. Following our 3 presentations, we will have a breakout session where each of our 3 speakers will host a discussion at their tables, where I'm sure you will all have rich and engaging conversations. We'll then return to an open Q&A, where we'll first hear a brief overview of the breakout discussions from our speakers, followed by some short reflections from Melina Bisa from Inuka, Youth for Nature, a by youth, for youth international nonprofit organization that educates, equips, and establishes youth as leaders on system-wide solutions for the climate crisis through capacity building, knowledge sharing, and storytelling programs. Thanks again for attending, and we'll now hear from Manuela.
Thank you, Grace. Thanks everybody for coming here and hearing to our really engaging speakers. We're really looking forward. Try to keep it brief because I really want to hear from what they have to tell us. So we already had a lot through the day, and actually quite a lot through from event through this COP, that capacity strengthening is at the very heart of adapting to the climate challenge. And it is also essential to ensure that adaptation research can translate into action on the ground. And as with my Heart of Adaptation Research Alliance co-chair today, I'm really, really proud of the work that the Adaptation Research Alliance is doing to by recognizing that creating lasting institutional knowledge and capacity are necessary for adaptation, that are effectively embedded into local context and local actors and community. And the Alliance now is bringing together over 200 organizations, actually almost 250, and these organizations all have signed up to the Adaptation Research for Impact principle, which states that research needs to build capacity and empower actors for the long term. So capacity is at the very core of delivering research that can influence action. And the same principle also recognizes the need that research and action to be co-produced with users. So there is a strong relationship between strengthening capacity, delivering and producing effective research, as well as co-producing both the capacity and the research with actually the user, the people, all the actors that need to be involved in this process. And this is fundamental to develop adaptation action that is relevant to address the different perspectives and interests across all of these different actors, scales, sectors, including local communities and marginalized people. And besides creating research and action that is most effective, co-creating knowledge, research and action also enable those involved to share knowledge, collaborate and strengthening the whole capacity by joint peer learning. And whilst co-creation is an important way to achieve effective adaptation while strengthening capacity in all contexts, is also particularly important for achieving urban resilience. And this is because cities are a very complex and multifaceted system that bring together multiple stakeholders, and all of those stakeholders, sector and discipline, and as well as power dynamic interacts within a city. And in those cities, the most vulnerable community and the most marginal people and informal settlement are often not included in decision making and often disempowered to take action. So all of these issues are, the issue around capacity and empowerment are all related together to the way in which we can build effective solution to urban resilience. And the Adaptation Research Alliance is successfully demonstrating that implementing co-creation processes on urban resilience that engage stakeholder, beneficiary and partner in this decision making is effective. And we will hear from Dr. Badur in a moment about what this work has produced. And this is the same principle that are the very heart of the CLARE program that, as Grace mentioned, I'm co-leading, which is an ambitious initiative that aim to develop new knowledge and new research by co-creating this research with key actors, but also at the same time by empowering those actors to bring the voices to the table and implement the actions that they want to drive. So CLARE really aim to enable researchers from all of the countries in which the project is working and practitioners as well as users and decision making to drive adaptation action and build a more resilient future. As such, capacity strengthening are very integral to CLARE, both through the project themselves. All of the CLARE projects are demonstrating that, as well as building research that impact action, they also are strengthening capacity of everybody who needs to be involved in the research. And we will hear very impactful examples that are coming out from two of the projects, Represa, that Richard is here represent, and Enact, that Kate is leading. And before I do so, there is also an important part of CLARE that is specifically focused on strengthening capacity across the projects. So that basically we thought that not only projects themselves can work about strengthening capacity of all of the researchers and practitioners involved in the projects, but also that there needs to be a kind of an additional infrastructure that support projects to come together and co-learn and co-share from each other. And we have the pleasure to have the Africa Center for Technological Studies ACT, as well as Plan Adapt, to host and lead what we call the Capacity Strengthening Hub, which has been very, very impactful today as well, also to bring this event together. And this Capacity Strengthening Hub, again, it is really aimed to co-create the capacity strengthening across projects, so really bringing projects together and work with project team for them to set their own capacity strengthening agenda. And this work is complement the very important work that Grace has mentioned and the South and North leading on Research for Impact. So the Research for Impact Hub that support research project team to reach the full potential in co-creating research that make tangible impacts on the ground. And I really want to thank the Research for Impact Hub and the Capacity Strengthening Hub for bringing us together. Thank you. And as well, I think I look forward to hearing the speakers.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm here to give you a very, very brief overview of this project Represa, which stands for Resilience and Preparedness to Tropical Cyclones across Southern Africa. The vision of Represa is to increase resilience to changing tropical cyclones so that we are prepared for unprecedented events of the future. It is focused on the main countries in the region that are affected by tropical cyclones, Mozambique, Madagascar and Malawi, but the approaches and the methodologies and the results that we will be using and generating will be generally applicable. From a headline perspective, what we are studying and building resilience to is unprecedented but not unforeseen tropical cyclone impacts, and I'll expand on that just in a second. So the main research questions are how to design multi-hazard early warning systems based around flooding, which are required now. So we're looking at the issues that people are having now, but also what response options are available to changing flood risks in the context of the development which is being undertaken, and also unequal vulnerability which is being the people and the communities are suffering. And the underpinning sort of science work that's happening here. So it's an integration between the work that is happening on the now and designing systems that protect people now, but also into the future. And the underpinning science work is about what are the unprecedented changes in tropical cyclones that climate change is bringing. We're seeing these already, and we need to know how those are going to evolve into the future. So that's the easy bit. The hard bit is about the co-creation, and I don't expect you to understand and read all of the elements in that diagram there, but the project itself, which is building on experiences in previous programs that were funded by FCDO, and it's about bringing in together all of the actors in different forums, in different interaction spaces that allow all of the people who have the knowledge that's required to understand the systems that are being represented and we are trying to protect, bringing all of their knowledge together alongside the work that's happening in the Met services and the work that's happening on the underpinning climate and governance and decision-making research that allows us to design these systems which really affect and impact the vulnerable people that are at the heart of who we are trying to protect in this project. So very, very briefly, that's it. And if you want to come and discuss more, please come and join me on the table later.
Thanks so much for having me. As mentioned, I'm Kate Strawn from ICLEI Africa, and I'm going to just briefly chat very quickly about our Designing Inclusive African Coastal Resilience, City Resilience project, also known as ENACT. And this project has been implemented in 2 coastal cities, eThekwini, Durban in South Africa, as well as Beira in Mozambique. And both these cities in the last 4 years have experienced extreme flooding, and unfortunately this has resulted in both urban and environmental damage, as well as displacement, and sadly a lot of loss of life in both these cities. And I think many of you would have watched the event unfold in Durban last year. The idea behind this project is that if we address these challenges faced by these coastal cities, we can enhance resilience, but we also need to ensure that we foster inclusivity, that when we develop the resilience packages for each of these cities and that they're equitably distributed amongst the different populations. So unfortunately, in many instances, often a lot of these packages are focused on your middle income areas, and we want to ensure that all the resources that are put towards resilience building in these cities are equitably distributed amongst the different populations. But ultimately, we'd like to see that what solutions are developed and the methodologies that are developed in this project can be upscaled and outscaled, if you want to call it that, to other vulnerable coastal regions in Africa. I hope I don't go on to the next slide here. But the idea is that this research aims to strengthen proactive, inclusive, and evidence-informed urban resilience. So we want to ensure that we capture what our vulnerable populations need, what is their understanding of resilience, what is important to these communities that are impacted so severely by these climate-related events. And the idea is that the research uses transdisciplinary approaches that emphasizes the idea of co-learning and co-creation, and that these solutions that we put forward in this project come from different stakeholders, that the voices of the vulnerable are also at the table when we start creating these solutions. So we want to ensure that we capture these voices, and this is not always easy, bringing these people into a room or, for example, a community hall. So the idea in the project is we're going to use multiple different approaches and methodologies to do this. And to mention a few, the idea is to use photo voice, learning labs, walking workshops, and also community mapping. These are just some of the approaches that the project will be implementing to ensure that we capture what resilience means to these communities and understand what is important to them. So I'm going to just quickly click to there was another few pictures here. But the idea behind photo voice is one of the methodologies I'm going to touch on now. And this was championed by one of our partners at UKZN. And the idea behind photo voice is that it allows and empowers communities to tell their own stories. It allows them to capture their own realities using visual methodologies. And the idea behind this is it really helps overcome power dynamics and language barriers. So often if you put a community member in a room with local government and NGOs and that sort of thing, they feel sometimes inferior and they don't want to speak up, and therefore we don't actually capture their opinions and their thoughts. So the idea is that if you give them a camera and the opportunity to talk about their own setting, you're able to capture their realities, you're able to capture what their life looks like on a daily basis. So, and the idea behind this is that this information then feeds into our resilience planning, and when we go into these communities with our municipalities and want to put in place upliftment projects or develop these communities, the municipality understands what is important to these communities. And I think there's a lovely story here, and to us this merely looks like a rock. And if you and I were walking through a community, this is something that we may not even look at. We would walk past. But one of the gentlemen, when he was undertaking this exercise, he spoke about this rock and the meaning of this rock, and how every day he looked at this rock and he sat on this rock, and it was there when they moved into the area, and when they started building their house, this rock was there, and every day he looks at it and it reminds him of his mum. And this is important, because if we go in with a municipality and we develop an area, this rock may be removed, but this rock has significance to someone. It means something to a community. And these are the important things we need to start capturing if we want to build resilient and inclusive communities.
Hi everyone, I'm Aditya, and I'm here representing the Adaptation Research Alliance, which, as Manuel has said, is a global coalition of 220 or so organizations from 70 countries. Every few months, the leadership and the membership of the Alliance comes together to home in on a couple of issues of critical importance on which we need to all work together to find innovative solutions. And earlier this year, decided that the Alliance, one of the areas it would focus on would be urban risk and pathways of finding urban resilience. And to solve this challenge, 125 organizations have worked together over the last few months to really unpick what are the challenges that cities are facing and what are the ways of overcoming these challenges, what are the solutions. And a few headline messages have emerged from these conversations. The first is that there is no silver bullet solution for enhancing urban resilience. Context is king. We need to calibrate individual resilience building interventions with the context in which they unfold. The second theme that kept repeating itself through these discussions was that issues of incentives, institutional politics, issues around governance were absolutely critical to making sure that urban resilience solutions work. These are highly place-based, highly contextual issues that need to be appropriated by anyone trying to enhance the resilience of cities. When we asked people about what had worked to enhance resilience, when we tried to think together in our cities where we live, what has worked, almost inevitably, what had worked, any solution that had worked, had emanated from a slightly long and messy multi-stakeholder decision-making process. Rarely did any of the organizations participating in this co-creation process think that a solution developed by an expert and parachuted into a city had delivered the kind of impact that they intended it to. However, lots of people also brought up the fact that these multi-stakeholder decision-making processes are kind of ad hoc and lack a systematic approach. And therefore, as this coalition of organizations spread all across from Latin America to East Asia, it was felt that there was a need for a process, a set of guidelines, a framework, and an approach through which we can find and co-create contextual solutions for urban resilience. That's a zero draft of what we've come up with. I'm not going to go into that in detail, but essentially, this demonstrates the different levers that we can pull in order to home in on the right urban resilience solutions. I was asked to only give a trailer in this lightning talk. If you want to know more, if you want to know how it works, and if you want to know the organizations that are now going to start working with us to try and implement this on the ground, and if you want to work with us to implement this on this ground, please come and join my breakout group.
Thank you, Richard, Kate, and Aditya, and I know we'll hear from Melanie a little bit later. Thanks for your presentation. So if I can ask everyone to make their way to the tables at the back of the room, and then we'll proceed with our breakout sessions. You can pick whoever one you'd like to choose. I know it's a hard choice, but you can also move around between tables. Everyone, so sorry to ask you wrap up your good conversations, but would you mind returning to your seats? We'll give you all one more minute. Is it, if I switch it on, it'll work? Hi everyone, can I ask you to just return to your seats for some closing reflections? Thank you so much. Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us again, and I'm sure that those were all amazing conversations that we can hopefully pick up after the session is done. We'd hope to have a Q&A, but hopefully you can pick our speakers' brains afterwards as well. So I just wanted to invite Melon to give us very brief reflections that she prepared today, so I'll hand over to her.
Thank you. So I was privileged enough to be on the roundtable discussion with Dr. Aditya, and it was very inspiring to hear some of the approaches, co-creation approaches that are really working, like, for example, the community engagement aspect, in that for Inuka, we are also trying to work with different groups in Kenya that are implementing and trying to restore the ecosystems. And so for the community engagement, we find that when you involve the community in your work, they become more acceptable and they even offer their input. Like for the project we are implementing, the youth groups are able to develop their own projects from bottom-up approach. So from the planning stage, in that they come up with their own ideas, and this is on the need basis of the ecosystem that they're trying to restore. And also through this, we have also seen that different aspects come in play when designing the projects, like the economy of this region, the culture, and also the policies that are involved in that region. So these aspects are usually very important to develop your project, and the need basis for these projects to be sustainable for the community and nature.
Thank you so much, Melon, and I'm sorry to cut you short a little bit on time, but I'm sure we can all have a chat with you afterwards. So I'll just hand over to Shanaz to give some closing remarks and reflections, and to thank you all for being here today.
Thank you. I was sitting at the back and just listening to the table conversations, and they were really lively. And I think that's the spirit that co-creation should happen in. Trust, honesty, and real engagement. I think what we're also seeing is that co-creation is encouraging a two-way process, and that particularly in the city's context, it can take into account the chaotic system that cities are and transform it into complex systems that can be worked with. So, I mean, I've got a lot more reflections, but we can chat afterwards, but I know there's a little time and we're going to be kicked out. So first, I do want to do a vote of thanks to the donors. And these, it's FCDO and IDRC, and particularly how they have, at the core of the CLARE program, they've mindfully put co-creation. And that's quite a risk as a donor, and to do that with the big funding they're giving, I think it's really commendable. And then to thank the speakers for their time and for hosting the tables, and then to the brilliant facilitator, Grace, who's from South-South-North, and then to our South-South-North team, who put lots of effort into this event and who are here at COP. And then also to the partners who were very busy in the background working to make sure the event is a success. So thank you to everyone. And I think everyone deserves a round of applause.
Thanks very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your time at COP.